Hi, my name's Martin. This video is to show you how to set up a sequence on the DX9. I'm using a sequence to allow me to reduce from 2 switches to 1 when transferring from vertical to forward flight on the Convergence VTOL aircraft, and also going from Gyro to Acro mode. In the vertical mode, Gyro is essential. In forward flight mode, Gyro doesn't give you much command over the control surfaces, so Acro is preferred, certainly by me. So I wanted one switch that would take me into the forward flight mode, and then immediately that had completed to switch from Gyro to Acro, and then when transitioning back to vertical flight I wanted Acro to switch over to Gyro immediately, and then for the sequence of transitioning from horizontal to vertical flight to kick in immediately after that. Here's how I've done it. From the main screen, if you click the roller, you can find yourself the sequencer set up at the bottom of that first page. Click the roller and you'll see that you've got 2 possible sequences that you can run simultaneously. The door basic oblique wheels names are given to both of these. I've changed mine to VTOL and Gyro. You actually do the name change in the next screen. So all I'm going to do now is roll through, click, and that will take me through to the VTOL Gyro sequence. I've set this up to operate on switch H, so rolling through and pressing the roller, you can see that you can select any of the switches on the DX9 to perform this operation. Clicking to select, I roll to the right, and then this tells me that I can use, or rather set up, how I want the forward switch on H and the reverse switch on H to work. Forward and reverse are references to the direction in which things work on the next page in the graphs that you'll see shortly. So if I rock the switches, you can see the marker moving across the bottom there. Switch H, I don't want to be active on this position, so I want to flick switch H up. I want to roll through onto position 1, and I have gone from blank to black on that, so that tells me that switching into the forward mode, i.e. flicking the switch towards me, will activate the sequence in one direction. Rolling through, I've selected a speed of 8 seconds for the entire sequence. I'll explain that reasoning in a moment. Rolling through again, I go to the reverse sequence on switch H, and rolling either way, you can see how you select the box. I want the first box to activate the sequence so that when I switch, or rather push switch H forward away from me, that will start the reverse sequence. So you black that in by clicking on the roller. Moving on again to the speed. Now I decided to select the transition phase for 8 seconds because the actual transition of the motors from the vertical to the horizontal takes roughly 6.5 seconds. I wanted 1 second to elapse after flicking the switch before the sequence and therefore the transition started, so I've set the total elapsed time for 8 seconds. This, you'll realise, leaves half a second after the transition is complete before the mode changes from Gyro to Acro. I've kept the same spacings in the other direction, although it doesn't quite work out the same for reasons which will become obvious. So rolling through, then we can name the first part of the name for the sequence. I've named it VTOL, and then the short form of that, which will appear on the next screen where you're setting up the sequence itself proper, I've made VTL for obvious reasons. Name B is Gyro, because that's the other channel that is going to be affected by the sequence, and short form GYR. Rolling through, channel A is the auxiliary channel, and that's where the vertical takeoff to forward flight transition cable is attached on the receiver. And so I want to select AUX1 there. Again, click on it, it will start off as inhibited. You can roll through the different auxiliary functions there. So I've selected AUX1. Going down to channel B, the gear, that's where the channel is for changing from Acro to Gyro and vice versa. Again, clicking on that, you can select or see what options you have. So clearly one is taken up. You've got gear 2, 3 and 4. So I'm selecting gear because that's the default per the manual setup for the convergence. Rolling through, the type of movement I want to select for AUX1 channel is step. Pressing the roller, you can see that that changes to proportional. That will give you slow transitional movement on the gyro instead of one quick movement. Step is fine for what we're doing because obviously that's what happens when you flick the switches as per the setup in the Convergence aircraft manual. Rolling on to next and pressing, we come to the sequence graph. You will see that this is basically two graphs set one above the other. The top graph is for the VTOL channel, bottom graph is for the gyro channel. So treat these as two separate rectangles, one situated above the other. On each graph, the top line represents 100% plus 100% of movement from this point, which is 0. This point in the lower left hand side of the graph is the minus 100 servo position. Similarly, on the gyro graph, we go from a neutral position plus 100 at the top to minus 100 at the bottom. I'll show you how you can work out where you want to position your graphs by going back to the front end screen, rolling right to the monitor, and you can see when I switch H, the effects on the AUX1 channel, which is now renamed VTL, and the gear channel, which is now named Gyro. So you can see Gyro starts at plus 100, VTOL starts at minus 100. So that's the position that the servos are notionally in, as it were, when you are in the hover mode. So you'll see the change now when I flick the switch up to transition. There'll be a 1 second delay, and you'll see that the VTOL channel has moved up to plus 100, and then after 8 seconds the gyro channel moves down to minus 100. So those are the positions that we need the channels to be in when we move from vertical mode to horizontal mode. So back in the sequencer, we'll roll through to the next screen, and here we see the two graphs, one above the other. Top graph is for the VTOL channel, bottom graph is for the gyro Acro channel. Neutral points on the left here, 0 for each channel. For the gyro, plus 100 is at the top, minus 100 is at the bottom. And the same with VTOL, neutral point, 100 at the top, minus at the bottom. Kick points denote the points at which you want things to happen. Kick point 0 is set as 12% of the time in, i.e. 1 second, 12% of 8 seconds. and you roll through to the points in order to set them up. So point 0, click on it, roll through 2, 3 and 4, the cursor moves, back to point 0, roll through once you've selected it to select your percentage, then roll down to select where your VTOL channel wants to be and where your gyro channel wants to be. So we're kicking off with VTOL going immediately to 100% from minus 100%. We're going to keep the gyro channel on gyro until the very end. You'll see that 3 and 4 merge together because I want the gyro to click in only at the very end of the sequence. So rolling through, kick point 1. After 25% of the time, purely an arbitrary percentage for positions 1 and 2, just to get them used up. VTOL has become 100%. Gyro is remaining at 100%. Kick point 3, I've set at, kick point 2 I've set at 50%. And again, positive 100 on each of the channels. Kick point 3, I've set at 99% because then I want to go straight over from gyro to acro, which I do at kick point 4, and you'll see the gyro changes to minus 100 at that point, which is 100% of the time sequence. If I now flick the switch up, you'll notice that the little arrow in between the two graphs will change direction, as will the arrow up here. Flicking the switch now, you'll see that as I go back and transition into horizontal mode, I have to work my way back from kick point 4, which is at 100%, set my channels accordingly. As I move to kick point 3, I want that to happen immediately, and you'll see that that is the change from acro to gyro. I go from minus 100, which is acro, to gyro at plus 100. So that's 88% setting, but that's actually 12% in from this direction. 100 minus 12 is 88, so that's 1 second into the sequence. So I flick my switch 1 second later, I go into gyro mode, then at kick point 2 I'm immediately into transitioning to the VTOL mode, and I go on to position 1 at 25% and position 0, and you'll see that logically, once I've flicked into gyro, I'm going to remain at plus 100 all the way along, and once I've flicked into vertical motion, I've gone into minus 100 there. So that's how the setup in both directions works. You flick the switch, you change the direction, you can set your time at each of the kick points and your channel positions separately for each direction. So that's 2 settings for each of the kick points, one in one direction, one in the other. That certainly helped me to reduce the workload when flying. It not only prevents me from having to flick 2 switches to go into acro mode when I've converted into forward motion from the hover, but it also prevents me from flicking accidentally from gyro mode into acro mode when I'm in the hover, because that does nasty things to my aircraft. Whether that's my fault or the aeroplane, I don't know. Anyway, hope that's been helpful. Cheerio.